There are a couple of things that I would have liked to ask you, sir, because personally also being involved with workplace ethics, ethics around AI, the legal issues around the AI. Paucity of time maybe. Now coming to the last question to you, sir, two parts it has. One is the military leadership. What are the suggestions that you would like to give to the military leadership as far as application, first of all, R&D and then application of uh, AI is concerned? Two, the impact of this on the foot soldiers, the infantry, the numbers. What are your views on this?
So, if you analyze India's army budget, total military budget, it's very heavily skewed towards manpower. And the manpower budget includes, pensions for retired people. And of course, you have to look after people. I fully agree with that. I think India should look after its military. I am very pro-military wherever I'll tell you, when I was in India for first 20 years, I was not fond of military because they didn't respect military in India. I came to the United States and I started respecting military. My attitude towards military changed because I saw how, for instance, at ITT, from the chairman down, they're all military people, ex-West Point graduates. And I didn't know how smart they are. The military training is very smart because you learn technology, you learn how to articulate, you learn management, you learn operations, you learn how to run a big multinational because the military in the US is a big, giant multinational. And so you learn all kinds of things, and they are very, very intelligent and smart people. And I've changed my attitude towards military people. And ever since I started noticing that military people are very action oriented and they're very, very good. So when I come to India, one of the things I advocate is that India should respect its military more. India should have more military budget. India should understand that these guys are not just some soldiers standing out there and facing bullets and all that. Of course, he's doing, but these are also very smart people, and they know what they're doing. So India should look after its manpower, military manpower. But the problem is that the huge percent of the budget which goes to support the manpower leaves very little for R&D and new technology. So if you take out all the manpower, then the next is supplies, because after all, not only you have to look after manpower, you got to look after the supplies, whether it is, uniform, whether it is whatever, ammunition, that supply is very important. Then procurement of new weapons is what I'm talking about. Then that procurement of new weapons, only tiny percent of the total military budget in India is left to procure new weapons. And then in that, some of the weapons are conventional weapons. You need to buy all these conventional weapons. And then the question is, how much is left? So what is left? The military wants to buy imported stuff. Naturally, they are right, because the imported stuff will protect the country. The Indian DRDO had not produced cutting edge weapons. This Arjun tank, 1MA or something like that, the name for this new Arjun tank, they showed it on Republic Day. I don't have the number correct. The army is buying, 110 of them or whatever they're buying, but they're buying thousands of Russian tanks. You can't blame them. So they're buying the LCA, the light, the Tejas. They'll buy a certain number of squadrons of that, but they want to really buy the Rafale because that is what's going to protect them against foreign, countries. So what has happened is India's lagged behind R&D, and therefore the weapons have to be bought. So Israel supplies the avionics. A small country like Israel supplies the avionics. You look at Taiwan, is the world number one in semiconductor. Taiwan, small country. So it's not like we couldn't have afforded it. We needed brains. We needed to make the right bets. I remember when Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister, he made a trip to US. It was covered in one of the Indian newspapers that he went to some place, I don't know where it was, Texas or wherever it was. And somebody said that, why doesn't India invest in semiconductor chips? And he made a joke out of it saying, I don't care whether it is potato chips or semiconductor chips, I don't care. It's kind of a silly, stupid thing. Because somebody said it'll cost $10 million or $20 million. Okay. Now, $20 billion would be just the entry price to get into that field today. Because but we could have invested in the early days. And like we invested in atomic energy. We made the good bet in space because of Satish Dhawan's persistence, and we made because of Homi Bhabha, we made this bet in atomic energy. Thank God, because suppose India had not done it. But with all the stupidity and other decisions that Nehru made, all of that, at least in those two areas, he listened to the smart guys. He did not listen to his babus. He listened to those scientists. And therefore, we are at least happy that in those two areas, we got a good start. Now, the same could have happened with the AI also. But we did not make these bets. Decades ago, in space and atomic energy, we started those commissions, we made those bets. But in the last, I would say 10, 15 years, when it's been this whole AI thing coming up, India did not make the big bets. What was India doing? India was praising, besides these foreign digital devatas, we also have the Indian billionaire devata. The Indian billionaire who made his billions selling labor to the Americans. They hired an Indian guy for $10,000 a year, software guy, and they sell him for $30,000, $40,000, and they make a ton of money. And this is not because they are brilliant people, but they know how to get visas, and they know how to do HR, how to hire these people, how to sell them. So this business of buying the top brilliant brains cheap and selling them for a higher price, making money, created billionaires. It created, all sorts of, whether it is TCS, whether it is, Infosys or, Mahindra, and all these labor arbitrage, export software, export tech, export people. That's what they did. So India was busy doing that rather than innovating. India did not take that money and reinvest it into R&D. China took the money from cheap factory labor. They sold cheap factory labor to the Americans so they would bring all their factories to China. Very smart of the Chinese. And then whatever somebody put the manufacturing in China, the Chinese would quickly figure out the engineering and figure out how to make it, copycat it on their own and beat the Americans. They were smart in that. And then they took that profit, and more than half of that profit they invested in futurist technologies. All the bets I told you, they were funded. All the big Chinese technology bets were funded from the profits they made from the Americans only. So they took their profit by selling cheap labor to the Americans, invested it in futurist technologies, stole a lot of our knowledge and information from the Americans only to go ahead to beat them, their own clients. India didn't do smart things, futuristic things with our early success. We did have early success. We were justified in calling ourselves software superpower, but we did not know how to keep that lead. We did not go up the value added curve. We just kept selling bodies. Even today, when you ask Niti Aayog, what is the AI strategy? Ask NASSCOM, what is the AI strategy? Ask FICCI, what is the AI strategy? Do you know what they tell you? They tell you we are going to upskill our people and hire and rent them out to Microsoft and Google and to the Americans, because we will create the largest supply of labor. So supplying labor is our strategy. Come on. And in my book, I've criticized this guy, Kotak. I've forgotten his first name, the head of Kotak. I've named him and I've criticized him because I've quoted him saying that his dream is that the youth of India should not only be the urban youth working for Microsoft, but also the villagers should be working for Microsoft. And we should upskill the villagers so that we can work for Microsoft. Now, I call this the Shudrafication of India. It means you're turning them into labor class. You're turning them into people rather than being Vishwa Guru, we're becoming Vishwa Kuli. Because the whole strategy of the country is to, train, educate our youth so that they can get a foreign company as the employer. This is a bad strategy. I'm sorry, this is a bad strategy. You have to have innovation for India. Atmanirbhar should be also R&D Atmanirbhar.